Hello students and welcome to the class of economics. Myself Mrs. Hansa Pawar from New Catholic Mission School Jhabua, and today, as you all know, that we have finished chapter 1 in macroeconomics. Now today this is our chapter 2nd and part 1, that is the first video of chapter 2nd, and your chapter is basic concepts of macroeconomics. Now these concept which we are studying today in this video, this will be very helpful for national income accounting, that is for calculation of national income you will require these concepts. So please try to focus on each and every concept properly. The first is domestic territory. When we say domestic, means it is something within the geographical borders of the nation, of the country, which is belonging to a certain nation, that is we call it domestic. So, and territory means any area or region, okay, or borders we can call it. So, domestic territory can be called as economic territory, that is that particular geographical area which is belonging to a particular nation. It is a very important concept in national income, that is in every concept of national income accounting, for calculation of national income you will definitely require the term domestic territory, and it means the political frontiers of the country. Frontiers means borders, okay. So, political borders or frontiers of the country, and it refers to the geographical territory administered by the government within which the persons, goods and capital circulate freely. That means it is all whatever activities which are done within the geographical borders of the particular nation. So, that is movement of persons, it can be movement of goods, it can be movement of the capital, and which can be circulating freely without any obstruction, without any disturbance, okay, or without any restrictions. So, that is called as a domestic territory, whereby we can have movement of persons, goods and capital moving freely. In addition to political frontiers, that is borders, domestic territory also include, that means including all this persons, place and everything, we also include ships and aircraft, that means what is included in domestic territory and what is not included in domestic territory. We will study both. So, all those ships and aircrafts owned and operated, that means which is owned under the ownership and which is operated by normal residents between two or more countries, okay. That is though all those aircrafts which are operated by normal resident means those residents, those persons who are residing in a particular country for fulfilling their economic interests. It can be for earning, it can be spending, or it can be investment more than 1 year. So, all those aircraft which is operated by normal residents between two or more countries. For example, the planes operated by Air India between Russia and Japan, they are parts of the domestic territory of India, because Air India, this particular aircraft is belonging to India. So, no matter if they are operating or if they are traveling from Russia to Japan, that is shifting the passengers or travel of passengers from Russia to Japan, still Air India planes are part of domestic territory of India. Similarly, planes operated by Singapore Airways between India and Japan, that means those airways which is belonging to Singapore, okay, the domestic borders of Singapore, if they are operating between India and China, that means they used to transfer or shift the passengers from India to Japan or from Japan to India, still they are part of the domestic territory of Singapore only, they are not part of India. Then same way fishing vessels, that is ships basically. So, fishing vessel oils and natural gas rigs. Rigs is a kind of supporting material which is required by ships for the purpose of sailing ahead. So it can be fishing vessel oils and natural gas rigs and floating platform which is operated by the resident of the country. All these things which are operated by resident of a particular country in international waters. Now, international waters here means that water bodies can be sea, ocean or any other, okay. So, these water bodies which is not in the geographical borders of a particular nation, it belongs to international, it belongs to global world. So, it can be international waters where they have exclusive rights of operations, that means those ships which are operated by our residents and they have got exclusive rights, special rights for operation of this. For example, fishing boats which is operated by Indian residents, by Indian citizens or Indian fishermen in international waters of Indian Ocean will be considered as a part of domestic territory of India only, because these fishermen who are belonging to India, they are resident as well as citizen of India, okay. If they are operating their fishing boats in the international waters, that is Indian Ocean, still it is part of the domestic territory of India only. Then embassies. Embassies here means a kind of institution or organization which is representing a particular country as an ambassador to the global world. So it can be offices of embassies, consulates, it is also one of the kind of offices, and military establishments. It can be in form of army, air force, their offices, their establishments of a country located abroad. Say for example, Indian embassies or Indian consulates or Indian military establishment, if it is located in other countries, still they are part of the domestic territory of India only. Example, Indian embassy in Russia is a part of domestic territory of India only. Okay. Now what is not included in domestic territory? Previously we have discussed what is included. Now what is not included is embassies, consulates and military establishments of a foreign country. Just in the previous example, previous slides I have said, the embassies, consulates and the military establishments of our country in other nation, but still they are part of domestic territory of India, because all those staff, all those people belong to India only. But a foreign embassies, foreign consulates or military establishment of other country, if they are located in India, they are not part of the domestic territory of India. So it will not be included in the domestic territory. International organizations like UNO, that is United Nations Organization, WHO, UNESCO and so many other international organizations, if they are located within the geographical boundaries of our country, that means their head office or any other kind of offices or working activities, if it is done in India, they are not belonging to domestic territory of India, because they are not belonging to our country. So it will not be included. Now second is, as we have discussed in the first topic, domestic territory, the word normal resident. When we say normal resident means those who live or survive or stay in particular country. So and normal means, okay, normal. So when we say normal resident means all those individuals, all those persons who are staying in a particular country for more than 1 year. Remember, for more than 1 year for the purpose of earning, spending or investment. Okay, for certain economic activities, they are considered as the normal resident of the country. It can be an individual or institution who ordinarily resides in a country and whose center of economic interest, that means they are related to certain economic interest, that is for the purpose of doing job, employment, that is purpose of earning, spending or any of the economic interest which lies in the particular country. It can be the resident lives or located within the domestic territory of the country. The first condition is that they must be located or they must be staying in that particular country only for more than 1 year, as I said. The resident carries out their basic economic activities, that is these residents are carrying their basic economic activities of earning, that is doing job, spending and accumulation from that particular location, accumulation of anything from that location, from that country, they are called as a normal resident. There is a difference, but still we can say when we hear this word citizenship and residentship, there is a difference between both the words. If we talk about citizenship, it's a legal concept. Citizenship means if you are born in a particular country, so according to your birth certificate, you have automatic right to stay in that nation and you can become a citizen of that particular nation. So it is actually a lawful or legal concept. A person becomes a citizen of a country automatically as he take birth in that country or on the basis of some other legal criterion. It can be because of some other lawful criterion with which he is allowed to become Indian citizen as per the Indian law. That means because of which he can be allowed to stay in that country as per the Indian law or as per the law of any other country. Okay, suppose for example you are Russian, you are living in Russia, you have taken birth there only, so automatically by your birth you are the citizen of that particular country. So it is something lawful concept. When we talk about residentships, that means the person who resides there, stays there, it is an economic concept. Citizenship, legal concept, residentship is an economic concept, and a person is treated as a resident of a country on the basis of its economic criterion, that is economic activities. The same person, if he is engaged in doing certain economic activities in a particular nation, it can be in terms of earning, spending or accumulation of wealth. So that particular person can be called as a residentship. If you are Indian, if you went to America or Australia, you are staying there for the purpose of doing job more than 1 year. Okay, if you are staying there for the purpose of any economic activities, you can be called as a resident of that country. Okay. It is not necessary that a resident must be a citizen. There is a twist. We cannot call all resident a citizen, because for citizenship it is a legal concept. You need to take birth in that particular country, then only you will be called as a citizen of that country. Residentship, it's an economic concept. If you are doing job there for the purpose of earning, if you are staying in a particular country, any other country, you can become easily a resident of that country. So it is not necessary that a resident must be a citizen of that country. Even foreigners can be the resident of, if they pass the above stated economic criterion. That means any American, Russian or any foreigners can stay here in India, and for earning purpose they can become a resident of our country, but not citizen. A large number of Indians have settled in USA. That means a large number of Indian people who have settled in USA, England, Australia or any other foreign country are called as a resident of that country and not citizens of those countries. Okay. For example, in India they are not, and for India those people who are residing in other foreign countries, they are called as non-residential Indians, because they do not reside here in India. They are residing in other foreign countries. So we call them NRIs, but continue to remain citizen of India because they took birth sometime here in India. So they are called as citizen of India but resident of any other foreign countries. A Chinese living in India, for example, a Chinese person who is living in India for more than 1 year is called as a normal resident of India according to the legal lawful concept. However, he is not a citizen or a national of India. He is a Chinese person who is staying in India for more than 1 year. For economic purpose, he can be called as a resident but cannot be called as a citizen. As he does not hold the citizenship of India, it means a person can be a citizen of one country at the same time and can become a resident of another country. Okay, same thing happens with our NRIs, okay, non-residential Indians. They are citizen of our country and at the same time they are resident of some other foreign countries. Now following are not included in the category of the normal resident. That means these people who are not belonging to normal resident. Foreign tourists and visitors who visit a country for recreation purpose, for some adventurous, for some fun, holidays, medical treatment, study tours, sports events, conferences, business purpose. Foreigners who come to India for these many purposes, they are not included in the normal resident. Crew members, crew means group. A crew members of foreign vessels, that is ships, and commercial travelers and seasonal workers of the country cross the borders on a regular basis for doing the work in other countries. Say for example, some Indian people who are continuously or regularly crossing the borders of India and going to foreign countries for certain work. As the work finishes, they come back again to India. So they will not be included in as the normal resident of those countries. They are treated as normal residents of the country where they live and not where they work. That means if Indian person is going for doing any job or work in Australia, say for example, in Australia, and residing there for the economic purpose. As the economic purpose finishes, he comes back again to India. But still they will not be called as a normal resident of Australia or any other foreign country. They are called as a normal resident of India only, and with that citizen of India. Okay. Officials, diplomats and members of armed forces. That means those officials belonging to an administrative system, some diplomats, political leaders, members of armed forces of a foreign country who are working in India, they are not called as a normal resident of India. International bodies like WHO, IMF, UNESCO are not considered as the normal resident of our country if their offices are, or if these people who are working in these firms, WHO, international organization, they are staying here, in which this organization operates but are treated as the normal resident. That means they are treated only as a normal residents of international organization, international countries. Okay, they are not normal resident of India because they came here for doing certain work related to their organization. It can be WHO, it can be UNESCO, it can be any other organization. As the work finishes, they again move or transfer to their own country. So they cannot be called as a normal resident of our country. They are still called as a normal resident of their own country. Foreigners who are the employees of the international organization, all those foreigners who are actually the employees of some international organization or companies who have come to country for purpose of installing machineries or equipments purchased from their employers, something, are treated as resident of the country to which they belong. That means if an Japanese person comes to India related to some work which is provided by his organization in an international organization, as he finishes the work, that is, it can be installing of machinery, purchasing a machinery, purchasing an equipment, as he finishes the work, he moves again to his country. He will be called as a normal resident of that country, okay, Japan, but he will not be called as a normal resident of our country. So these things which are not included in normal resident. Now third is factor income. When we say factor income, income means earning, okay. Now factor income, when we say, it is related to factors of production, that is all those factors of production which are providing their services or rendering their services. It can be in form of land, labor, capital or enterprises. It refers to income which is earned by factors of production by rendering, that is giving the productive services in the production process, which is known as factor income. It is a bilateral concept. Bilateral means it is two-sided concept because there are two parties here. Okay, the factor of production which is working for certain firms or companies, giving their services. Say for example, an labor is doing the work for his firm. So there are two people, firm and laborer. It is a bilateral or two-way concept. The labor is giving or selling his labors to or employee who is working for the employer, and in return the employer is providing him salary or wages. Okay, so both are getting something in return. It is a bilateral or two-sided concept. It is received for providing factor services, that is, it is received by the factor of production for providing factor services of land, labor, capital and enterprises, okay, for the process of production. Say for example, any firm is there. When production is done, the firm requires land, labor, capital and enterprises. When these factor of production are giving their services, factor services to the firm, in return firm is also providing them the salary, wages, profit or interest. Factor income is included in the national income. That means these factor income can be included in national income as it contributes something in the flow of goods and services because of some productive activities are done here. Productive services are given here. So definitely this productivity is contributed or is added in the national income, flow of goods and services. Example, rent, wages, interest and profit. Now fourth is transfer income. Just like we did factor income, which is bilateral two-sided concept by providing or rendering factor services by factor of production. Now here when we say transfer income, it is actually not a bilateral concept, it is a unilateral concept, that is one-sided concept. When one person or one party is providing something, not in return the second party is not giving anything, okay. Now it refers to income received without rendering any productive services. The income which is received by one person or one party or one group without giving anything. That means just like you get the birthday gifts, okay, you receive birthday gifts, you receive any kind of gift. It can be in the form of any material gift, or it can be in the form of cash from your elders, from your parents, without doing anything. So that will be called as a transfer income. Without doing any productive work, if you receive something, can be called as gift, can be called as many other things, okay. So it refers to income received without rendering any productive services in return is known as transfer income, and it is unilateral concept, that is one-sided concept. It is not included in national income, because it does not contribute anything in the production of goods and services. That means these activities, without doing or without working hard, if you are getting something in return, that means no such productive activity is done by you. It is not contributing anything to productive services and even to the flow of goods and services or production of goods and services. So it will not be included in the factor income, transfer income. Example, old age pension which you are getting, that is the old people who are retired, okay, the employees who are retired from their job, if they are getting pension, old age pension, without doing anything for the company, firm or whatever the firm is. So this will be called as the transfer income. Scholarship which students are getting for their higher studies, unemployment allowances, and many other things are there which are actually presided by the government, which is given by the government to you, to certain weaker section or to other kind of section of the society without calling for any productive services or without doing anything in return, that is transfer income. Now this transfer income is again of two types, that is current transfer and capital transfer. Current transfers made from the income of the recipient, that means all those transfer income or transfer income which is made by the recipients. Recipient means the person who receives that, okay, for consumption expenditure are called current transfer. That means the person who transfers which are made from the income of the receiver, all those transfer of money which is made from the income of the receiver for certain expenditure on purchasing certain goods and services, that is consumption expenditure, are called current transfer. For example, it is recurring, it is regular in nature. Every time you have current transfer, that means it is recurring, it is always continuous in nature. For example, scholarships which you get every month, okay, anybody who is getting gifts, old age pension, etc. So this is something continuous in nature. It is not a one time project or one time offer, okay. Whereas capital transfers which are made once, it is not recurring in nature, it is not regular in nature. So transfers made in cash or it can be kind, that is in form of charity, okay, without rendering any productive services. So in cash or kind for the purpose of investment, that means all those transfers which are made for the purpose of investment, capital formation to the recipients, that is it is made to the receiver, made out of the wealth or saving. It is actually taken out, these investments are done or shifted transfer income from the savings, from the wealth of the payer or donor. Why donor? Because we said that the transfers which can be made in kind, in the form of charity. So it can be done by the payer or donor from his own savings, from his own wealth for the purpose of investment. It is non-recurring in nature. For example, investment grant, capital gain tax, war damages which is recovered by government. So these kind of investments which are made from the savings of the recipients can be called as a capital transfer. Now dear students, here we have finished our video. Now we will meet again in the next video. Till then, thank you. Goodbye.